Hello and welcome to Zondell, Lines of Discordance, a Dungeons & Dragons 5e campaign. We have four of our players here again, and others will be either late or not able to make it this time, so we will jump into things. Where last we left off, the party managed to get by the skin of their teeth and get Yolinda to use the last wish on the ring that Maker had given her, and managed to deal with the Tarrasque problem for a considerable amount of time at least. Hopefully for good, but we'll see. And realized, all talking together, that they've been having some nightmares and not told each other until now about this. And the nightmares tend to be pretty much the same. And Yelinda says it's probably a Sararak in the pommel of her sword. And so the party is like, okay, we're going to head back to Castle Ebonpeak and talk to Stroud about, hey, we woke up at the Tarrasque, don't worry, we dealt with it. And a Sararak as the issue. Maker having identified Starfall and found out what it is and what it can do. And the party having other things to do with plans for the land that they were going to put their tavern and workshops and such on, and the fact that there's several places where it's, craters or pits that they may need to re-landscape before construction, or consider different blueprint planning than originally designed, due to need for additional structural support. And hey, possible hot springs to deal with a elemental. And so they head back to Castle Ebonpeak, and along the way can see that the 6 illithids that were staying outside the castle walls are still over there. I'd like perception checks from anybody who would like to glean any information about them. You don't need to say it, I'm just saying in terms of if you are going to look over at it or not. Because thus far, when you've gone in and out of Castle Ebonpeak, they've not really done anything other than just sit where they are. Okay. You all see that there are 6 of them there. 3 of them holding boxes that they have open in front of them. And there is just this shadow almost that is coalescing inside the boxes themselves that are open. One of them is reaching a hand into the box that is closest to you all, with their back turned away from you. Okay. Um, so the thing is, you had that for not a very long time. Did you get that from Ebonpeak or did you get that from Nick? Okay. So so you had it for about a week or so before you died, and then your body was still left in uh, Stormhold and was reconstituted. So you reach for it expecting it to be there, but there isn't any there. They are there. Basically, it is uh, when different people were looking at you and others who were brought back with the wishbow, it's what they knew you had on you. So, for example, Leo's bag was known to have been left behind, so that didn't come with him because it was known it wasn't. Your stuff was known to be on you before you had died, and then you had used it as a ghost, but it was still innately known that you had it. Go ahead and roll a 1d20. Okay. You do have those. You pulled enough of them out that it's just thought that you would have had them. But more specifics to that extent, not. Um, they seem to have their eyes closed. They're sitting down in a meditative stance, except for the three that are reaching into their boxes. You're asking people to. Right now, they don't seem to be looking at you. Possibly. It's definitely something shadowy in the box. You're not sure what it is from the distance, but each of the three boxes, one of the illithids is reaching inside of it. It's just early afternoon, about 1:30. What are you putting the sensor onto presently? Since it doesn't just like hover, you could put it on, like, say, the gate higher up on the castle, looking down, etc. Because it'll make a difference in terms of what you may or may not see. Because nearby there's the gate and the towers on the sides of it, the keep of the castle, There's mounds of snow, but they're not really more than like 30 feet high at the most. Okay. So you're talking about the third level clairvoyance spell. Right. I'm I'm not saying it has to get mounted. I'm saying in terms of as far as height wise, what are you using as reference? Like, are you just trying to put it at their knee level, or are you trying to put it at the height of the? It makes a difference on what you're seeing based on where you put the sensor, because you can't move it once you place it. Not without burning another spell slot. Okay. Just pointing straight down, or okay. Okay. So as you put it 20 feet up, um, you can't see what's in the boxes because you're centering it and the boxes are opening toward the center. It's just shadowy as far as what, and their body's in the way as far as where you're standing. But you can see as the first one reaches and pulls out what appears to be a eye that is faintly glowing green. Okay. Um, you're not entirely certain what it is. It seems it's magical. I mean, it is glowing, and it was a shadowy box, which is not normal. So the box is probably magic as well. Do you say or tell anybody anything else about this? Okay, one moment. Okay. It does make a difference because it is magical darkness. What he can see is the first one. He could see from the angle with the clairvoyance was the eye that got pulled up. The rest of the boxes he can see partially something that's inside, just because the lid is still blocking part of the view. What's his perception? Okay. So he can see the other two things are a head and a hand. You're gonna go over and ask them. That's why I'm asking. He Yeah, he was chasing after them. Okay, at disadvantage. Okay. You have at least heard rumors about Vecna and the hand and eye, and you're not sure if that's what this is or if this is just some sort of imitation or if this is they're examining it. The body does not appear to be human, so it could be maybe they're just looking at it because of something to do with the species it's killed from. You're not entirely certain just from what little you're seeing right now. Okay. Similarly, you have heard rumors. Certainly, what Vecna was prior to the shattering, at least, was more humanoid. Um, Specifically, the things that you would know is that he didn't particularly like dealing with Kaz or the Spider Throne and Lord of the Rotted Tower and a few other different enemies that he had made um, on his ascension. Yeah, yeah. Um, and that the tower was left in a heap of ash. All that remained, as far as what was known, was the hand and the eye. Um, However, that was before the shattering, and it's it is not. I can let you know that right now. Um, no, that was something that from the symbols and the diagrams and such you saw was someone's attempt to get rid of the Tarrasque by putting it to sleep after yanking it out of another plane. Um, but yeah, you're not entirely certain if this is parts of Vecna or if this isn't, but it's feasible at least, since nobody knows where the parts have been, or even if Vecna came back to life even whole after the shattering. No one knows. They haven't popped up. Yeah, they promised not to eat everybody if they would help them, because they're looking at Dare and Co as a possible abomination, but also evolution that they might survive. Okay, if if this if this campaign ever had any merchandise, that would have to be on a shirt with somebody trying to stab, you know, Bone Daddy. They're considered abominations or aberrations. Go ahead and roll history or religion. Okay. Um, you're not entirely certain. You think you remember something or other about a list of old liches, but you don't really know any other details. On what? Knowing about a Sararak or um so yeah, you would definitely know that a Sararak is a old lich that at one point had created a death curse that had, for a period of time, made a range around their lair impossible for people to use resurrection magic without first defeating them. And then they still somehow popped up later in history, but then seemed to disappear again before the shattering happened. Since it's pre-shattering that you would have heard about them, it really doesn't look like any race that you've seen, so it's difficult to kind of discern in that regard. I mean, it definitely does look dead, whatever it is. I don't believe so. Let me double check. No. They count as objects if it is a corpse or broken. That's why animate object works for a skeleton. Let's see. You don't think that they are, and it does not work on objects. Possibly. Okay. Jesse's already gone over to them before without issue. Yolinda is more or less still staying by everybody who's discussing things and just does, however, mention to people who are trying to think of plans like, we do have somebody who's over near them, so whatever you're trying, let's make sure they're not there. Yeah, she can telepathy to Jesse anyways if it looks like people are planning to actually attack instead of still discussing things. Okay. They're presently about 35 to 40 feet, depending on which one. The closest one is 35. The closest one. And you're just openly doing the spell. You're not trying to conceal it or anything. This is yes. Though it is a verbal, somatic, and material, an item distasteful to the target. So it's just a matter of if you're, trying to do subtle or whatever to conceal it, then Yolanda might not see it. But if she starts seeing what you're doing, she's going to communicate. That's why I'm just double checking. Okay. Jesse, get away from there right now. Someone's trying to try something. Just get away quietly, calmly. Okay. Roll to attack. Let's see if you even get it near them. Unless you have proficiency with improvised weapons, you wouldn't add anything. Just your dex. Okay. Okay. It just basically lands right next to them, like just bumping into them on the snow. Okay. So while you're still in mid-throw, banishment is a charisma saving throw. Okay. They have advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. Okay. The one holding the eye disappears. The other 5 stand up. They are all turning and looking over at you all because no one else is near that they can see who could have done that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Maker, Yolanda, Adam, Jesse, and Syl, since they're just first communicating to 5 minds at random, not knowing who did it, I'll hear, "Return, compatriots," inside your minds. Okay. Okay. So, everybody roll initiative. You can stand aside, or you can choose to just go last. For Anna? Sorry about that. It's still a bit loud, but my mom had turned the TV up. Alright. And I just gotta get the things. Alright, so it'll be Fiona going up first then. Hits. Hits. Okay. The first one drops down. The yeah. the box and hand fall out of its grasp as it falls. That'd be Anna. Four. One banished and one down. They're all within 5 feet of it, except for the one that's banished. I mean, technically you can do it. They were... The one that dropped with that would be 37 feet. Yes, they're all within 5 foot of the illithid before it fell. It fell into the middle of the circle. She'd move up and then have to disengage not to take opportunity attack. Moving up doesn't provoke one. It's when you move away that does. And yeah, she's got 30-foot movement. Alright. Alright, so then the illithid who has the other box is holding it, the head with one hand, lets the box drop, draws their sword, lops off their own head and sticks the head onto their own body. And they promptly fall to the ground. They were lifting up the head and lopped it off, so it's like their arm just slumped down on their body as they were falling. But they definitely fell to the ground. The head did not stay connected. Yeah. The other illithids are looking at them in confusion before looking at everybody else. That'd be Jesse. Yes. I'd say probably only about 5 feet away. Okay. All right. Um. Well, it your illusion would be on them making a investigation. Um. So that would be on their turn. Yeah. So the thing is that they have a advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. That's part of what they have. So it means that when they do that, they have a higher chance of being able to recognize it. But the time that you cast it, compared to it being their turn and them discerning, is the turn order still. They don't automatically just detect it because they don't have true sight. All right, it is Adam's turn. Yolanda is not presently resisting. As long as it matches to the rule, yeah, as long as it's a second level or lower. In typical, it would be restricted to a cantrip or a bonus action if used together. But with the homebrew that we're using, there's more options. Okay. All right. So which one is that for them? All right. And it is Leo's turn. Sure. You're readying it, you mean? Right, but I'm saying you were saying readying spare the dying. Well, you can move and activate it when you actually touch. Yeah. It's just that it isn't able to do anything until you actually can touch them. Okay. 4 of the illithids rise up that were on the ground. All right. The one that is nearest to the Battlemaster is going to try to attack them. That is. That is a dirty 20 to hit. Okay. You see a crackling of electricity in their hand as they lash out and just sidestep or kick it out of the way. And the others are running up toward the group. All right. And it is the monk's turn. They're pretty much all right up next to you guys now, except for the ones who moved away from the party or moved over toward the illithid bodies when they were down. Yeah, you can circle around them as long as you don't leave more than 5 feet. It's basically like just strafing. The head's still on the ground where it had fallen. The body that is decapitated is not there. It is amongst everybody else. So to get that, you would have to disengage or risk it. 38 feet. They all that were down got up, including the one that's headless. They, yes. And it's the one that tried to shocking grasp and missed. They're presently near the party, so they would 26 feet away. So you're moving back to them and then attacking just the closest one? Just hits. Does a 18 hit? Okay. The monk takes 11 psychic damage. And their intelligence is reduced by 4. As the head that they had picked up has arms reach out from inside it, bursting out and slashing into them. Maker's turn. Yes, but I would say that it would be partial cover, so you'd have disadvantage on it. Unless you want to risk just hitting through the person. Or hitting both at the same time if it's a area of effect attack. It does not. Yeah. Okay. All right. So. We are going to... Let's just bump Elwyn up. Let's have you pre-roll your stuff for Gozer, Isrog, and the Creator. So that means just roll it in advance and just save it. You can just type what you've got, and then we'll get back to those and just bump L1 up. Since you've got 3 NPCs, that would be coming up next. So, L1. You've seen first one Illithid get banished. One that decided to lop off its own head and try to, at the same time, stick a head onto its body. which it just fell instead of actually working for whatever it was intending. Several illithids go down, one that's still up, and one illithid pop back up and then get put down, and another 4 pop back up and get put down. There's still one that is standing over where it had been, but all the others had rushed in. And now the monk that Maker knows got attacked by the head that it had picked up from the illithid that had chopped off its own head, and tried to stick this on it. There are presently 4 illithid corpses on the ground. There's an illithid that's standing near an illithid head. There is a head of some unknown creature, some humanoid, that is in the monk's hands, but hands burst out of the head and just attack them. It had just attacked the monk. Okay, it's going to be disadvantaged since it's providing partial cover by being held. Okay, it depends on how much cover it is. So, half cover is +2, 3/4 is +5, total cover can't be targeted. But that's with the default. With this, it's more like more than 3/4 but not full, so that's why I was saying disadvantage, just because it's held, where it is. Well, it just moved closer as it attacked, so it's still close to the body. I mean, if you want to throw it away on your next turn, that's perfectly fine, but it did move closer to attack in your grip. Prior to its attack, yes, but it is able to move. So, in any event, Ellen, what was your roll on that? That does hit. Okay. And that's with an arrow, correct? Okay. So the arrow sticks into the skull and knocks the creature as it is pulling itself and clawing its way up the monk's arm toward their body, away from them. Monk, are you going to let go or try to still hold on to it? Depends on how far it moves. I'm going to roll that in just a second, but that's dependent on if you want to let it go or if you want to try and still hold on to it. Because right now, it got hit hard enough that it is letting go of its attempt to grab you. Okay. Yeah, it got knocked 9 feet away, so there's an attack of opportunity. Right, and you can do that while it's still in the air. It's just after your turn, then yes, attack of opportunities will be able to happen. For everybody except for Jesse and Yolanda, since they left, and Syl and the sisters, since they stayed away. Yes. Yeah, you're shooting it in mid-air, basically. It's falling, and you're just shooting it before it goes. Yeah. Okay. That's what you can do if you invest in Archer properly. I think you can get it up to like a plus 16 without going into magical weapons. No, I'm saying with the most that you can do without going into magical weapons, I think you can get up to a plus 16. Sure. Sure it will be. Hmm. Well, no, some CR30 stuff has a really high AC, but yeah. Yeah, you hit it. Yeah. Did you net 20 on it? Then no, it's not. But yeah, Arendelle did hit it before, just a short bit ago, and 15 is the AC, since that was just a hit then. All right. Okay. So, um, Just that the skull is still in the air and got hit with the second arrow as you are in the middle of the others rushing up and trying to hit it. Is Anna and Kraz, Leo, Baron, any of them attempting to hit it as well, since they're right up there? No, it has to be a melee one unless there's a feat for it, but I don't believe there is for opportunity attack on that. At least not in any of the homebrew that we used. It's not by default. Yeah, that does hit. So yeah, as long as it's melee, a smite is part of a normal attack. So it'd have to be a melee attack, which most smite stuff is. So. Okay. Between all of the hits, while it is still in the air and falling to the ground, there's gashes along the bone around the skull breaks open. You can see a bulbous, throbbing brain-looking thing with a bunch of tendrils and small tentacles that are wriggling around what look like clawed feet or hands, depending on how it positions itself, as it's squirming around on the ground and then curls up on itself, twitching, and then goes still. The remaining Illithid, who is not yet dead, just puts up both of its hands and tries to slowly shuffle backwards. Yeah, it's more or less. It's like there's a couple of seconds overlap because of the fact that some people are doing one thing after somebody else does it, while others are doing something that is simultaneous with somebody doing it. It's kind of wonky how D&D handles it. Yeah. Okay. Um. So I rolled a nat 20. Plus it's 3. So what is your total amount? Okay. So it's still intimidated, and it's holding still, instead of backing further away. Um, since the monk's the one who said that, let's have them first do a perception check. Okay. Um, you can see that one of their, as they've got their hands up, the tentacles that's near their need to drink a little bit of water anyway, so. Well, I mean, if you guys would like to do that while he's dealing with that, that'd be fine. I just needed to drink a little bit of water, but okay. Um, so you can see he's staying still, but his tendrils coming down from his face. One of them is reaching into the sleeve of his robes, and there is a little glint of metal as he is pulling something out and trying to slip it into his hand. Okay. Um, so you said hold person, correct? Okay. It automatically fails. Yes. They are considered aberrations. They are not considered humanoids. Yes. So, are you wanting it to stay in round? Because it would be taking its turn still. Uh, well, it would. It was Elwyn's turn right before its turn. So it would be just making its action unless you guys have something as a reaction that you can do. No, the putting up its hands and moving its tentacles is a free action. It is attempting to pull something out though. So, um, right now it would be if you have something that's a reaction you can do, because otherwise it would be its turn. Okay. Anybody else want to try something if they have a reaction that they can attempt, or just want to say something quick? It'd be something like next 20 seconds before they would just take its action. So, okay. While you roll up that, anybody else attempting to intimidate or do something else as a reaction? All right. Just missed with a 23 as it pulls a tuning fork out and immediately casts plane shift on itself. That's why I'm letting you guys know that it is a spell, because you would be able to notice that in the action if you have that. Otherwise, it would just seem to disappear. So, let me double check to see if Yolanda or Dare does, just in case. Because Yolanda was being dragged away. Yeah. Okay. So, no. But, what level are you attempting to cast it at? Okay. Okay. So make an ability check using your spellcasting ability. Yes. 7th. Yeah, it's if the spell is equal or lesser, so you'd have to be casting it at a 7th level in order for it to automatically just stop it. Okay, you stop it as it is trying to plane shift away. Attacked by you. It said we were attacked by you. No, it speaks common. We had a bargain. We were attempting to identify them. Okay. Both hit. Okay. He is still up, but he is gurgling in pain. Well, Kraz had gone up to it. It had been 35 feet still since it hadn't moved. Everybody attacked before it even had its turn. Hits. Fails. Okay. It falls down, and you can see it's unconscious as you knock it prone. Okay. And there's black ichor that pours out. Nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. No. I cast Fireball at 20th. Okay. Okay. This is... Go ahead and first make a... No. I'm just double checking the details. Alright, a wisdom check. Yes. You can use your proficiency with it. Okay. At first, the magic seems to indicate that it is the actual hand of Vecna before delving deeper and pushing through a false bit of magic to misguide people. And it is a false hand of Vecna. it doesn't have as many things as the real one, and it does have a curse. You are able to discern that. It's right in the main campaign one. Yeah, if you put it on, then your alignment changes to neutral evil after a long rest. You must make a DC 10 Wisdom save, fail, and you must commit an evil act. In addition, if you ever speak Vecna's name, your tongue is magically bound in your throat and you're mute for 1d4 days. Really sucks for a spellcaster. It would be difficult to do so, but it does require that you would attune it first before the curse would apply. You are able to see that that is what would have happened. You also can see the other details. There may be. Concentration would have to be dropped for that, otherwise it would stay. And since they didn't get hit, then it would stay unless they intentionally chose to drop it presently. Okay. Okay. All right. He does reappear, and he is completely confused, bewildered, and terrified at seeing all of the others just down. Yep. That does hit. Okay. That's a 15. You said it was a... Didn't you say it was a DC 15? 16. Okay, then yeah. He is down. Okay. And he's still on the ground. And he looks like he is definitely bloodied. Um, okay, definitely hits. No, it is down. Okay. And it is ripped bloody apart and blood spilling out into the snow. Yep. Okay. So, you can see this is not a Eye of Vecna. In fact, it seems rather obvious once you actually are touching it and holding it as it is oozing sticky green slime. It is a slime eye. And this is what it can do. Alright, have a good night, Leo Baron. See, they popped out right when I was pulling that up. And the top one is the details. If you throw it at a target within 20 to 60 feet range, it'll stick to them for 24 hours or until detected. It's not being used. It looks like a simple green stain, if it is attached to somebody. DC 14 perception check to discover it is on them. Be able to see from the location where you threw the eyeball for as long as the eyeball is in the same plane of existence as you. Cannot see in the dark. Has disadvantage on wisdom perception checks in dim light and blinded in darkness. Okay. It is not a magical item. You're able to tell that quickly from trying to look it over. It is a aberration of some kind. No, it is not. Okay. Okay. You don't want to harvest different parts or anything? Okay. So yeah, you quickly do burn it up. Go ahead and make a nature check at disadvantage. Okay. You've heard of intellect devourers before. Pets of illithid sometimes that will stun, incapacitate, wipe the brain of someone, and then take their place. This, however, seems to be possibly a cousin of some kind. You've only heard, like, very vague, rare rumors of other things like it. This is an intellect glutton. Has more HP, higher AC, and the ability to raise the dead, and do multi-attack from range of 30 feet, 30 feet instead of up close, if it had gotten the chance. Well, there are now 6 corpses, one without a head, several without brains. Around the immediate area, but as far as they are aware, the illithids had come up from the sewers underneath the castle. Strahd said possibly from some portal that they maybe had come through. He didn't know. That they were aware of for certain. They did say that there were more of them, but they didn't specify how many. Alright. So you're just harvesting the brains, nothing else is being checked or harvested? Okay. And Scylla, are you looking for anything else? Okay. Elwyn, Kraz, and Jesse? Okay. Well, one was missing its head and it still came up, but... Elwyn? Yeah, there. Got the Star Wars up. Okie doke. Alright. As far as parts, you would find multiple tentacles, sorted flesh, and other things. Nothing that innately has anything of value as more than a trophy or decorative purposes. Not unless you're trying to create, like, say something that deals damage specifically against illithids. Okay. Alright. So, you will be able to create a elixir that can be applied to a weapon, up to 3 weapons worth, for creating an advantage on the damage die of a melee weapon or ranged ammo. Each use for ranged will be 10 pieces of ammunition. Yeah, quite a few people. Plus, illithids, especially at the level that they are only a CR 8 each. And they weren't initially attempting to attack. They were like, who are all these people? What's going on? Well, some of them would have if it hadn't been so fast. Plus, one had decapitated themselves and one had been banished, so they kind of couldn't do what they wanted. Alright, so, after all that is said and done, okay, that's what I was asking before. That's why I was asking, and you were saying no, you were just looking for parts. Okay. Hmm? A minute yet? From when you just left right now, or you mean as far as? Yes, by now it would be a minute from how they are searching. Okay. I am pulling it up. There's a bit. Dare? All right. So, uh, there are 6 robes that seem to be non magical. There is a thick book of some kind, 2 rings, one that seems to be gold and some sort of sandstone put into it, one that seems to be mixture of white metal and bone. There is an opal with some runes carved onto it, a bottle that is stoppered, a vial that is stoppered, a deck of cards, and a morning star. So, the deck does have 12 cards. The Morning Star is a deep shade of purple, save for its glistening white spikes. Its appearance puts one in the mind of a night sky. Do you pull a card out? Okay. So, roll a 1d12. Okay. On drawing the card, you see what appears to be an image of a bridge through a shimmering surface in the air that vanishes into that surface, and in that hole in space, the bridge continues on, even though around the portal there is no bridge there. The bridge continues on to another plane of some kind. You gain the innate ability to cast the gate spell 5 times. Period. The card crumbles into dust afterward. Lots of fun things. It's a great vacation spot. You know, just say that the darkness really brings out the color in their eyes and the pale, frightened pallor of their skin. Okay. So, do you look over any of the other items or identify them, anything to that extent? I mean, yeah, it depends on if you are out of spell slots and need to recover, or if you're just talking about, you just want to. Right, that's what I'm saying. If you're doing it as a ritual, then it takes time, but if you're doing it as action, then you'd be burning spell slots. There is. It's just a matter of if you want to do that now, or if you want to roll that up between sessions just to see. Okay. it right? Right. So they don't come to you. Right. Yeah. If it's a place that you already know, you can open it and go there. Or if you know the name of somebody, you can um, do that. So it just depends on how far away that you are making it go, or if you know where they are. But it is a ninth level spell that you have 5 uses of without any other issue. So, yeah, that's why I'm like, ooh, okay. So, all right. Um, let's see how many items in there. There are 8 items in total. If you want to identify all of them, then it would be just Fiona rolling first to see whether she rolls a 1 and is unable to do identify as a ritual for the rest of the day. Right, just roll it 8 times just to make sure that she doesn't get stuck before then. Okay, so she doesn't lose the ability to do it. With how many people are present, at least somebody's going to get 1 success that's over 10. So the items are able to be identified. The book is a Tome of Dreams. And it is full of short stories. You can read a story from the book over the course of 10 minutes. The underlying nature of each story is unclear, leaving your subconscious mind to slowly process and unpack its deeper meanings over the course of your next long rest. The next time you finish a long rest after reading a story from the book, roll a d20. If you roll a 10 or lower, you take 2d4 psychic damage as your mind is plagued with intense terrors from the story you read. On a roll of 11 or higher, you gain 2d4 temporary hit points as your mind is filled with joy and courage instead. If you start a story but don't finish reading it, nothing happens the next time you finish a long rest. Okay. The first ring, are you looking at the gold and sand one or the white? Okay. So, it is a ring of sand striding. You are able to walk easily through sand. It does not count as difficult terrain, even if it is shifting. And if you are caught in quicksand, then you would have advantage on your check to try and get out. Okay. That is a Ring of the White Worm. WYRM. It is fashioned from the tooth of a great worm white dragon. At will, you can use ice walking, like spider climb, but the surfaces must be icy. You can walk without disadvantage on walking on ice. You can even climb and walk upside down on ice. Twice a day, you can create a freezing fog. It causes slippery ice to form on any surface the fog touches. It's essentially the effect of grease spell. The wearer of the ring is immune to the effect because of the ice walking power. You also can do once a day ice wall of ice, and you have the ability to speak and understand the draconic language as long as the ring is worn, and the ring grants resistance to the cold environmental, not specifically attacks, but right. It also infuses the wearer with energy and power of a dragon. Once per day, the wearer may call upon the ring to transform themselves into a half-dragon. It is a full round action that provokes attacks of opportunity, and the transformation lasts for 1 hour. When transformed, the wearer gains the following benefits: +4 natural armor, bonus to AC, bite and claw attacks as a half-dragon of the same size as the wearer, breath weapon usable once per transformation, 30-foot cone, 3d6 cold damage, reflex DC 16 for half. In that form, immunity to cold, +8 strength, +2 constitution, +2 intelligence, +2 charisma. They are considered racial bonuses and stack with other racial bonuses the wearer may have. You still remain the same shape and size, but do change in appearance. Your equipment is altered so that it can still be used. Unlike polymorph, the equipment does not merge with your form, and is still fully functional. Okay. Okay. It is Evening Star. It is a rare morning star. It is a deep shade of purple, save for the glistening white spikes. Its appearance puts you in the mind of the night sky. You gain +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls with the magic weapon, and its what attacks are considered magical. Bonus increases to +2 under a night sky, or to +3 when in the inky void. You may cast Etherealness on yourself with this weapon, and the duration is only 1 minute. Once you've used the property, you cannot use it again until the next day at dawn. But it's such a nice, wonderful place to go. Okay. So there's still the elixir, the deck, the opal, and the bottle. Okay. The deck is the deck of Delirium and Delight. Each of the cards is carved from a thin slab of jadeite and etched in fine detail with elaborate images, many of which move and react as they are looked at. It's found with a simple string pouch and contains 4d4 plus 2 cards. Wouldn't need to take it out of your hands, just as long as they are casting it while you are holding it. You would not be able to know which specific cards it is without actually drawing them, but you do know that there are 11 cards left. Each will crumble after being drawn from. Okay. It is a opal of tunneling. Is a large black opal bead, the size of a pearl. When thrown against the surface, the bead explodes in a red flash and melts a hole into the material, forming a lava tube 10 feet wide and up to 30 feet long. The hot tunnel walls deal 1d6 points of fire damage per round of contact. It glows for 1 minute, after which the tunnel is safe for unprotected creatures to enter. It only works on rock and similar materials such as crystal, salt, and so on. Does not damage a living creature nor penetrate wood. However, a living creature within 10 feet of the explosion takes 2d6 points of fire damage from the blast. Okay. It is a bottle of ever-flowing sand. If the stopper is removed from the opaque glass bottle and the command word spoken, an amount of fine, dry sand flows out. Separate command words determine the type as well as the volume and velocity. Heap puts out a cubic foot per round. Dune produces a 20-foot cubic foot pile at 5 cubic feet per round. Sandblast produces a spray of sand dealing 1d6 points of damage per round. Considerable back pressure requiring a DC 12 strength check to avoid being knocked prone. Sandblast can only affect one target per round. Command word must be spoken to stop the flow of sand. Okay. Yep. Okay. It is a simulacrum elixir. The small vial of clear fluid contains a potent magical charge. When the contents are poured over a body part, which can be as small as a fingernail clipping or a single hair, the liquid quickly grows in volume and transforms into a simulacrum of the creature from which the body part came from. Simulacrum functions as a spell of the same name and remains under the absolute command of the person who created it. Simulacrum created cannot be a duplicate of a creature with more than 26 HD or levels. Its likeness to the original creature is crude at best. It's basically like a clone. Let me double check. It's been a while since I pulled that up. It's an illusionary duplicate. It's 12 hours, unlike clone, which will last longer. It'll obey your commands, moving and acting according to your wishes and acting on your turn in combat. It lacks the ability to learn and become more powerful, but it can use anything that you can do. It does not regain spell slots if they are expended, however. If it's damaged, you can repair it in an alchemical laboratory. Rare herbs and minerals worth 100 gold points per hit point it regains. It lasts until it drops to 0 hit points, at which point it reverts to snow and melts instantly. Duration is it lasts until dispelled or killed. Casting time is 12 hours typically, but with this it is, instead of using a spell slot, you are using the elixir. Yes. 1. Right. They get their initial ones, and if they burn out, they burn out. just affects spellcasting. Okay. All right. And meanwhile, Jesse, you have dragged Yolanda away and managed to get to the castle ahead of everybody else who is been dealing with the illithid still. Which invasion? As I said before, they're not fairies, they're aberrations. Sometimes there may be things that are interfering. I mean, we know now, after several of us had a nightmare, that a Saravak has been messing with us and trying to influence us. It's possible something else maybe tried to influence you earlier. I do think that we don't know for sure how many illithids there are, just the 6 that we dealt with, who, well, they're dead now, but we don't know if they communicated to anyone else prior to us coming up, or what they were planning with all of those boxes and items inside them. I'm guessing the one who decapitated themselves was not expecting what did happen. That's certainly a new one on me. nightmares can be real too if they actually occur and aren't just worries. I think we just need to do our best to help everybody sort out this and prepare for the possibility of more illithids or whatever they've allied themselves with. And everything else in terms of sister's wedding and our plans for this tavern and other different things going on. Can't prepare for everything, but at least some things we know about. I honestly don't know. Is it something you'd want me to go with you to? I don't really know much about Oven holidays. I'd be okay with it as long as, there's an understanding that if there's anything specific required, part of heritage and traditions, that I don't know anything about it. Just hope nobody's going to look too terribly down upon us for that. We'll see, I guess. Right. So, over time, everybody returns through multiple different sources. Strahd hears what happened. Anybody planning on saying anything other than what did happen? And do you know the name of the lich that they were trying to conjure? And you're certain they were trying to conjure them instead of tapping into its power themselves? This is true, as I have found over a long time. But it is quite different if they are attempting to directly summon versus if they are foolish enough to attempt to make use of it. If they knew it was false, then perhaps they weren't, but if they thought it was real... I've never heard of a head of Vecna. It seems a bit strange. They typically are in that circle. From the sound of it, it seems perhaps they were trying something, and some source of these items either was themselves fooled or they tried to fool the Illithids. While I can understand that, unfortunately we do not know if anyone was spying on them and with how long it took to get here. It is difficult to know if we are not going to be encountering a invasion of some sort. I trust that you did the best that you could with limited time and information, though it means an additional danger, potentially. One that we were possibly aware of where it was located, but now we do not know where they may be. I'm sorry, repeat that again. Yeah. More or less, yes. If everything worked out as intended. I had not planned to make a vacation there, especially not the honeymoon. But that is good advice. He gives a little smirk looking at you all and raising an eyebrow. And Yolanda is like, you all are certainly a lot more than I expected when initially putting out my bachelor status to different nobles within the Frostheart. I have met a few unusual staff and bodyguards and the like of some individuals over my long life, but you will certainly, how did you put it, take the cake. Regardless, I suppose that is one less unknown danger not to crop up in the middle of it. It would have been very poor manners for a Tarask to wake up and suddenly stomp its way into the wedding because it did not get an invite. Most people just simply thought that I was too scary and didn't laugh at my jokes because they were afraid. I've always been funny. There's just a narrowing of the eyes. Yes, well, you said something about the final elemental? Hmm. Fish is most definitely meat. You strain credibility and credulity. Regardless. So, I think it seems like you all could use a good long rest after all that has gone on. We can discuss matters of alterations that have happened to your land, the potential of preparing against the illithids that may be attempting to invade, and other concerns. Okay. Do you cut him off in the middle of saying that? Okay. He just blinks and looks to Yolinda, his eyes slightly widening. I think that will take greater precedence over the other planning. And I think that would be best not to wait for a rest for. It's a 25. I think perhaps a short rest for those who wish to do it, but a long rest would not be the most wise. The presence of that soul would explain the reports of nightmares that we've heard, and I would wager that those who rest while it is here will do more harm than good by resting. There are some who would still be sleeping even now, who may be having nightmares, and the sooner it is dealt with, the better. I could get something to eat. Been a lot of running and flying around. So we all eat and sit down at least, then start trying to figure this out. Alright, well, I'm gonna go sit down over in the dining hall, see what's in the kitchen to eat. And she just starts walking off, just taking Jesse's hand and leading him off. I'm aware of what that is now that our new acquaintance and hopefully friend maker here has filled us in on it. I think that we do need to deal with a Sararak having a fragment within it. But I think that at present it may be difficult to damage the blade even. Fragments of it still remained even though it was used to shatter the universe. I myself had pieces of it in a armor that was dangerous to wear, but useful, and kept it safe and not in use for a while. But let Yolanda wear it, as she was already carrying around 2 fragments that we knew, and better that she use it to defend those 2 fragments than let her own two fragments be taken. However, now that it is whole, it is extraordinarily likely that there are entities that would seek it out. Elder One. You mean like what its name was or anything, or? No. You just knew that it was a colossal aberration. Okay. Is Siliqui drawing it like a normal individual would who's trying not to go insane, or would Siliqui, given her own proclivities, illustrated in a sort of moe fashion or something? Right. I'm saying, are you drawing it as it was, or are you drawing it as its sexy tentacles? Okay. Um. Yeah. Is there self uh, depiction within the image? Okay. 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 So Strad would look over it and say, I agree that would be a wise decision, and passing that on to allies that we found this out somehow. So, dangers of there and other places to stay. Well, I really would like to focus on preparing for the wedding, but in order to ensure that my bride and I, and all of our guests, yourselves included, our staff and guards, are not all slaughtered in the middle of it. I think after we figure out how to deal with the Seradak, we need to do the dread planning of discussing how to deal with other issues. And hopefully, trouble will not follow you all around like a curious, whimpering puppy that you just have to pick up at every opportunity. I do not know. That's something that maybe happened when you were away. So, any final things on air before we end off for the night? Malik. Okay. It will glitch out again. Gotta love YouTube. Alright.